I do not think so. ZVTs, I think, are longer on average than TVTs. The TVTs we've cast the last 2 days have been all pretty short. I don't think anything's gotten past like 12 minutes. So I believe this TvZ will be longer than the last series we cast, without question.
Without question. All right.
Without question.
The map is Cyber Forest, spawning up in the top left-hand side of the map. It is player one's FanTaSy.
And spawning in the bottom right, his name is Solar. And he's a Zerg.
Solar is a Zerg who is sometimes just a monster.
He is. He's so good. He swarms, right? There are certain Zergs that I'd characterize as they swarm. The ones that can actually control as though there is an Overmind behind them, right?
I think that's an excellent description.
I think Serral can do it. I think Solar can do it. I think Rainer's getting there. He's very young, but I've seen him be capable of it. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere on the creep. They're scouting. They're looking around. They're doing 100 things at once. Looks like they're being controlled by something that can multitask like an insane million-year-old Overmind. And Solar's one of those dudes. So very, very, very happy to see him here today. But yeah, nothing crazy going on at all. I mean, it's a hatch gas pool from Solar, 1 racks expand, basically here out of FanTaSy. That Reaper going to get started soon, and by that I mean right about now. There it is. There's your Reaper. There's your orbital command. Overlord checking for proxies, not seeing anything because there's nothing to find. And yep, just setting up for a regular old macro style here.
Okay, now I'm gonna put you on the spot all day today.
Oh no, here we go.
Let's go.
Yep. I was way off on the last one, as much as I could possibly.
No one would have predicted that, I don't think.
That's true. All right, I'm gonna go Solar 2-1 here.
2-1. I love FanTaSy.
I do too.
But just because he tried to mech in the way that he did versus Trap, and I'm worried he's gonna bring something a little bit outlandish, and Solar's just gonna shut it down. So
you're expecting outlandish.
FanTaSy likes this sort of mech styles that aren't necessarily the most refined, dare I say.
Oh, interesting. All right.
And so I'm thinking a 2-0 for Solar.
All right.
That's my prediction.
We both have generally the same thing, but it's different enough that somebody has to win.
Yes.
So, third base coming down for Solar here, sub 3 minutes.
We need more commentators, so at least one of us can be right all the time.
A 3-man booth.
Oh.
Those are hard to do, but I don't know. I'll give it a shot one day, maybe.
That was. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, that was it. Go ahead.
That was something that was really cool about like the SSL, I think, which and Pro League and stuff. How they used to have player prediction or the caster predictions. And
Yeah.
have like an overall score for the entire season. I think that was great.
That is so cool. All right, Cloak Banshee, going to be the opening here from FanTaSy. Now, unlike sort of who we saw yesterday, I really hope Solar gets some detection out because it really sucks when a Cloak Banshee shows up and you have literally nothing to detect it with. There were a couple times where sort of was like, I don't have any spores. I don't even have a lair. Crap. I guess I'll throw it on the spore now. But it's like Cloak Banshee had free reign for a good 30 plus seconds. It was bad.
Yeah, I think it's like sort of skipped StarCraft 101 with those Banshees. I mean, I don't like to tear into the guy, but they were pretty brutal. And FanTaSy is going for the same. But Solar already came in with an Overlord. He didn't scout the Cloak though. He didn't scout the starport, so he is a little bit in the dark.
It's a good point. I'm watching that production tab as fast as I can here, as closely as I can here, but still no spores.
Oh, yeah, and that Banshee. She's on the move.
Yeah, that Cloak is 10 seconds from completion. There's Spore.
Yeah,
Spore.
He caught a glimpse of it with that Overlord. So FanTaSy, he's not going to have as long, but he's going to get some work done with this Banshee. Once again, something magic about FanTaSy's Banshees, apparently, as he comes on in and the Zerg is... He wasn't completely unprepared. He at least caught a glimpse of it in time, but still cost him 5 drones.
Six kills, and he's out of range of the spore.
That's
It has to
brutal.
replant. Getting some hits off there on the queen, which is kind of a waste of time,
Okay,
honestly.
there's one in the main, but that's also out of position.
It's in a weird spot, dude.
Oh no.
Solar, you're making us look bad here, man. And oh, he's kind of saving him
Okay,
in
he's
the
making up
extractor
for
there a
it
little
with
bit.
that trick, but another Banshee comes on in for FanTaSy, working away on these drones. Solar's doing a decent job putting these out, but he's already lost 9 drones. That's a fair bit of damage for a Zerg player at this stage of the game. More drones
And the
going
Banshees.
down. Oh, good save.
And the bench. And they're not dead. The Banshees are not dead either. They're still alive, which is just insult to injury there.
Yeah. Solar might have been missing his spores, but he's not missing his speed with those drone saves.
Alright, well, FanTaSy is down a little bit in worker count just because that's how Zerg is. You killed 10 drones, you're still down. But mules are nice, and that should help overall. With the economy that we're seeing here from Solar right now, yeah, it is definitely ahead. As you can see there in the bottom, Hellion follow-up, nothing Solar hasn't seen about 18,000 times. The fact that the Banshees are alive is kind of the problem, though. That's extra damage. That's extra picking off Zerglings and picking off creep tumors and doing damage versus Queens they don't want to have to deal with. And
Yeah.
man, these Banshees are MVP.
They are. They've done the work. Let's take a look. 9 kills on one, 2 on the other. So she's slacking a little bit. But the Hellion's coming in for FanTaSy, fry up a few lings, and just moving on out. As you said, keeping them alive is very nice because they're also very helpful for defensive purposes as well.
Yeah, some roaches show up or some queens trying to run by. Banshees are going to cleaning that up. So difficult hooks on the way from Solar. He's getting a bunch of banelings here. Again, that 1-1 for the melee, which makes me feel like we're going to see Mutalisks here.
You think?
Just based...
Solar's
I mean,
the
I'm
Hydra
just...
guy though.
I understand that. But he doesn't have a Hydralisk Den. He's not getting missile attack upgrades either.
That is
I don't know.
true.
We'll see. He doesn't have any higher tech yet. He got the lair, but he's not really using it for much.
He's just getting down an extra hatchery as well, so going up to 5 hatcheries in total. So I guess just a lot of lings for starters. Then we'll see if he goes for anything else. FanTaSy is moving on in though. He doesn't have his armory done yet. However, he's got siege tanks. The Hellions will still help out. And he is going to be looking to push into Solar with these tanks in his bio.
Yeah, I don't know about Ling Bane handling this. I'm really a little bit worried about this for Solar. I'm watching that production tab. Infestation Pit. He gets an Infestation Pit before either a Hydralisk Den or a Spire. What?
I guess, I mean, Ling Infestor has been seen like once or twice. Maybe, what do you think? Like, I don't know, Swarm Host? Maybe?
Sure, why not? Why not Swarm Host versus Marine Tank, I guess? It seems like not a good idea.
Hive? I don't know.
Hellbats are here. That's beautiful stuff. This is a big, scary army from FanTaSy, and there is Ling Baneling to handle it. I think FanTaSy needs to go. I think he's really expecting mutas or something, but they're not showing up.
Yeah. Solar has a lot of lings, and he should have a fair few banelings. And when I say a lot of lings, I mean a lot. He's passing the 100 mark. He's only got 16 banelings so far. As long as FanTaSy takes the right engagement, you're right, he definitely can go for it and try and make something happen here. He's got a good tank count. He is being very slow with this, trying to push into Solar's creep. He's being very respectful, maybe a little bit too respectful, as a matter of fact.
I need to see how Solar does this, because if this is viable, if I can just make Ling Baneling to Hive, I'm going to start doing it. So let's see if this works out for Solar here. The Marines
Look at that.
Kicking in, clearing creep. Yeah, man, look, Hive.
Solar wants that.
Going for 2-2 for his Lings and his Banelings.
Even when Ultras were really good and every Zerg wanted a Hive and a pet Ultralisk, like, they'd still usually get Roaches or something to be safe, or
Yeah.
take steps along the way to be extra safe, but Solar just says no, a lot of Lings, a lot of Banes.
FanTaSy sending an attack up to the north there, trying to maybe make a beeline into Solar's third base.
Yeah,
But
this
enough
is
Lings
great
and
for
Banes are
FanTaSy.
there
Gonna
to
shut
shut
down
that.
base.
Nice. Very nicely done.
I think FanTaSy having these drops out on the map is actually very good because it might be preventing Solar from counterattacking right now.
I mean, at the very least, it's definitely keeping Solar at home. Some Banelings roll in. Don't really do much, honestly.
Look at that Hellbat.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
he
takes
put in
them
the
to
work.
the... He's cool. Does force a cancel there, and just nothing but Lings and Banes. Bases are getting sniped. Oh, there's the
Oh,
counterattack.
there it is.
Solar.
Okay, you know how
Cruising.
these Banshees, they got their work cut out for them right now. So many Lings and Banes rolling forward for Solar. In fact, this is literally a Zerg Swarm right now, just crashing on in here. FanTaSy's Marines are running, but the Banes do find them. Can he hold on back at home, or can he get counter damage done? He's looking to push forward. Solar did commit a lot to that attack.
All right, so there's the Ultralisk Cavern. This is it, but I don't know if it's going to be in time. FanTaSy has tanks set up. FanTaSy has cleared out the Zerg attack on his side of the base. He lost a few SCVs, but he's not all that much in trouble.
Look at this. Solar has 33 Banes right now. The tanks for FanTaSy are going to be good, but... Man.
Look.
Okay, look
Getting
at this.
extra damage there.
Forward. Bane's
Target fire on those Banes. The splits are good here. Hellbat's taking some shots. FanTaSy looking really great. Evacuation of this base entirely. Adrenal glands on the way. 15 Banelings on the way. Army supply is 94 to 64. Another hatch goes down. I'm telling you, I don't know what Solar is trying to play here, but trying to go straight to Ultralisk is not really super viable against Terran.
I mean, he's doing as good as he can, and he is almost at that Ultra point. He has the Hive. However, now he's got FanTaSy unloading a Medivac in his main base. FanTaSy is going to scout that Ultra Cavern as well. We'll see what he's able to get done.
He doesn't have the gas. He has enough gas for one Ultralisk right now.
Oh man, this Ultra Cavern, Solar worked hard to get this out early, but it is going down.
My gosh.
No tightness plating, one Ultra on the way. That has been a massive delay by FanTaSy, playing a very good game of StarCraft 2 right now. Coming on in, he'd already picked off one base, and now he's looking to deny another expansion.
Ball game. Calling ball game, that's it. Solar tried to get to Ultra. Right. Literally the only tech he had was Ultralisks. He doesn't have the gas for it. He has the one Ultra that's going to pop. One Ultra and Ling and Bane is not going to work here, but there's just this many tanks and Marines working on 3-3 on those dudes too. It's just not going to happen. The income isn't there. He's trying to counterattack on the other side of the map, but it just doesn't look like enough there.
FanTaSy, he does a good job keeping his bio back at home, not just rallying everything across the map.
I'm actually surprised that third isn't a planetary fortress, to be honest.
Yeah, FanTaSy is 3-basing it, keep in mind. He hasn't gone for one of those expansions to draw the game out longer. He is committed to trying to kill Solar at this point. He doesn't want to have to deal with this late game Zerg. But look at that, a nice drop. Actually kills off that hatchery, gets a lot of damage done there. And meanwhile, FanTaSy with tanks is pushing up this other one. Liberators coming on in as well are going to be absolutely brutal. Got to be careful with them. You can't give those away for free. FanTaSy. Oh man,
just, buddy.
He's got to be careful not to let this one slip away from him. And with Solar's counterattacks getting so much work done, he might just be doing that. He's pushing on in. He's looking to deny this base. There is Vipers out. There is that one or two Ultras at this point. A second Ultra is on the way, so Solar going up to 2. FanTaSy hasn't pushed on in, though. He's had these tanks, but he hasn't been, say, moving them closer to the cliff or anything like that. He's going to be losing some Marines there. Is Solar going to be fine? Look at this counterattack once again.
This is insane. More and more SCVs keep going down. FanTaSy is down below 30 at this point, which is a horrible place to be. He's still attacking in on Solar's hatchery there at the third base. He should have enough to deal with it, especially with the 3-3 on these Marines and the Widow Mines.
Oh, that drop trying to get that hatchery. Not going to make it happen again. He's still working away on this base, but Solar has bought himself so much time as this game has been going on. Yes, he's under constant fire. But, and FanTaSy makes them happen. Solar decides to sack the base and just focus on his expansion down here.
So the Ultras come in. Ultras doing pretty well. Yeah, they're just bait for tank fire, basically, though. Solar getting in here again to this base that has no SCVs on it. And now all the no SCVs are dead. Liberator setting up in defensive mode. That's what you need, honestly. Some Liberators would be pretty fantastic there. This Marine bravely fighting against that hatch all by his lonesome. Corruptors in production. Army supply. Solar has managed to come back here by getting a Spire when it looked the darkest right now. I cannot believe what I'm seeing.
Yeah, can't believe it. It's right. FanTaSy still has a very serious army. I mean, he's got up his tanks, he's got a few Liberators, a bit of bio, and he's got 10 Widow Mines in this force. Solar's economy isn't great either, but FanTaSy's is a lot worse. Mules for days, though.
Yeah, that's a lot of mules, man. That income is actually really healthy for FanTaSy at the time being, but Solar has managed to push FanTaSy off his side of the map. He's managed to retake a couple bases here. His economy is really healthy, again, especially compared to FanTaSy's. His army is about the same size. He's got Ultralisks. He's working on anabolic synthesis, which is the speed that Ultralisks run off creep. He's got corruptors to deal with the liberators, and he's okay. This is amazing, amazing stuff here. I cannot believe he's come back. He was on Ling Baneling for so long, and he just made additional Ultralisk caverns, got a couple Ultras out, went for that Spire, went for the corruptors, got a couple Vipers in the mix, and he's totally fine. It's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, look at this. He's not necessarily out of the woods yet because FanTaSy is still going to have to try and kill him. But, oh man, 11 SCVs just died. Oh, God, FanTaSy's having it so rough right now. There is a ton of Widow Mines, there's the tanks, so FanTaSy, while on 3 bases, is still trying to kill Solar here, so can he do it? It's going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Solar is in a great position here. He's in a good position for sure, but here...
Come forward. Everything for Solar coming forward, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the Ultras. Oh, the Blinding Cloud is so important right there. The tank's getting taken out of it, absolutely. Liberator's getting some shots off on those Ultras, but not quite enough to kill them. Corruptors trying to finish them off there too. Liberator's doing some work. FanTaSy trying to take a 4th base in the meantime, but the Ultras and Lings are trundling forward. Army supply in favor of FanTaSy a little bit, but does he have the right composition for this?
Solar's production is just too much, I feel, at this point for FanTaSy. He just didn't manage to kill him. He's got his supply, it looks okay, but a good chunk of that is in Medivacs as well. And then he's got Marines when there's Ultras and Banelings out on the map. No matter how much you try as a Terran, you are not going to take a favorable engagement with Marines versus Ultras and Banes. It just doesn't happen. So FanTaSy, he's got to make some sort of play, but what?
Well, I mean, Liberators, obviously, to deal with the Ultralisks. To deal with the Corruptors, you want to make sure Marines are underneath those. It's all about positioning here, really. I think he has the tools that he needs. It's just a matter of making sure he can get his economy back up. That is so many mules. Why do I worry about his economy when he has all of these mules, honestly?
A nice move for FanTaSy is getting a drop-off, still very valid. Kills the hatchery. Solar's economy is good, but it's not great. So him trying to work on that and FanTaSy denying it is a good step in the right direction. Maybe FanTaSy can, I don't know, get some other harassment off, like a Widowmine drop or a Liberator harassment.
I mean, FanTaSy has straight up killed 4 hatcheries. If you kill 4 hatcheries in a ZVT, it's a good thing. You should be in a pretty good position, but he's not. He's not really looking good at all. The mules all expire there. He has to wait for the resources or the energy to come back on those orbital commands. He's making Marines, Marauders, Liberators. I think the answer is right here versus this Ultralisk play, as they are still in production by Solar, but Solar's just creep spreading. He's running around on his creep. He's defending. He's threatening attacks. He's looking extremely scary. And all he has to do really here is defend. Widowmine drop does get 9 drone kills, which is fantastically important here for FanTaSy, trying to whittle that worker count down. And you know what? FanTaSy's not actually making any more SCVs, strangely enough. When watching his production tab, it is all army stuff. He's down. 30 SCVs is good enough for him.
Yeah, he just needs mules. He's up on supply. He's going to be moving on in here. And we'll see what he's able to get done. Liberators are going to be getting set on up. Marines are going to be kiting back. Ultras coming forward. I mean, there's still a chance FanTaSy can take his one engagement. That's really what he's been looking for this entire game. And he decides the times now. He's stimming forward with his bio, trying to bait Solar into this. A few Banelings coming from the other side. They get focused down, though. Meanwhile, a drop at this location, getting work done. Drones going down for Solar. FanTaSy is definitely not out of this yet, and he's still pushing forward. He's up on army supply by a very significant amount. He's got these Liberators and mines to retreat to. As long as there's no crazy friendly fire mines, I think FanTaSy is fine. Is he going to be able to finally kill Solar here? The Ultras are crumbling, and FanTaSy, did he do it? Bane's rolling forward, but nothing happened there. GG.
Oh, what a crazy ZVT that was. That was fantastic. Great job by FanTaSy getting that win there. And it was touch and go. It was very much he was ahead, and then he wasn't ahead, and then he was ahead. Again, I'm just really, really inspired by the fact that he went down to 30 SCVs and was like, you know what? That's good. We're ready to go.
Yeah, that was impressive. That was
he did not
decision making.
He did not make an SCV for the final 3 minutes of that game.
His drops
just 0.
were good.
Yeah, drops are good. Widowmines were great.
Just
the regular... Neglected what?
While he neglected his own economy, I guess it was okay because he did so much damage to Solars. Like, if he had just sat back on 30 SCVs, that wouldn't have worked.
Right. Right. He needed to be aggressive on the other side, for sure.
Do apologize if you guys can hear my neighbors vacuuming, by the way.
I don't hear a vacuum,
Okay,
actually.
that's good. That's good news. You never know what exactly is getting picked up on the mic.
True fact. True fact. And Chicken says he wasn't mining gas for the final few minutes either.
He had a bank. So. He fell into the classic Terran blunder of having, like, way too much gas. So you're like, oh, I lost a lot of SCVs. I guess I'll stop mining gas, put them into minerals. It was just a few SCVs on minerals and mules for days. Make sure to let your friends know that these finals are going on, guys, as we're going to have a few more matches after this. And this series is continuing on now. FanTaSy versus Solar.
Game 2 is going to be on Port Alexander. Remember what I told you about TvZ being longer than TvT? Looks like I was right, yeah.
Oh, man. Every time, like, we talk about match length, it just goes back to group number 1, which it was, like, midnight, and then Kier decides to start making battle cruisers. Oh.
Like, no.
Oh, man. But no. My prediction's already wrong.
Yeah, me too.
Or didn't you say 2-1 Solar, or did you say 2-0?
No, you're right. I did say 2-1.
Okay,
you're right.
So your prediction is not dead yet, but it is looking... It's looking like an upset here. The map is Port Alexander. Up in the top left-hand side of the map, it's player 1's FanTaSy.
And spawning in the bottom right, he's blue, he's Zerg, he's Solar.
Solar, a very, very good Zerg player. But that last game, he just fell apart. It was the Banshees early again for FanTaSy.
I think you're right, man.
Like, that's what it all comes down to, right? Like...
Yep, the Banshees did way more work than they should have. The detection was late, etc., and set up for failure. Dun, dun, dun. All right, well, no proxies here from FanTaSy. Not interested in killing Solar fast at all. Solar checking for those proxies anyway, because that's what you got to do if you're a Zerg player in a TvZ matchup. Overlords, they got boring jobs, but they are important jobs nevertheless. Reaper on the way. Really, Reaper's just there for scouting, y'all. Can't really win with that first Reaper. Really, even getting a drone kill anymore is extremely hard to do.
Yeah, versus a Solar, it is very hard to do. Let's take a note.
Yeah.
FanTaSy's 2-1-1-ing.
Oh, look at that.
For a very early second barracks, at least, which generally is a 2-1-1.
Yeah, you usually don't see 2 racks into anything else. So, there's their second racks. Second refinery coming in now from FanTaSy here, too.
2-1-1 is so scary, man.
Can be, for sure.
I don't know how I feel about the build. In my opinion, if you're learning to play Terran and you're trying to, like, get good at the fundamentals, practice the 2-1-1. Because it gives you stimmed Marines out early, and that allows you to, say, drop around and try and do everything, and then, of course, try and macro while you're doing all that. But it does come at a cost. It really delays your economy overall. And the hope that you're going to be able to do something versus the Zerg. So the question is, FanTaSy, going for a build like this, will he be able to get enough damage done to Solar with it?
That's always the question. How much damage can you get done? How much can you slow down to the Zerg in the early stages of the game?
Because Solar is a train. He's not easy to stop.
No good Zerg player is. Really? You gotta hit him hard and fast early, or you're just gonna face down a maxed out terrifying swarm army at 7 minutes.
If FanTaSy can keep Solar in the dark about this, I feel a lot better about it. Solar is rather meticulous with his scouting, but if FanTaSy keeps Solar in the dark, once again, he's probably thinking about other things besides the 2-1. It's not the most common build anymore in TvZ.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, like most builds, honestly, if you can keep your opponent in the dark about what you're doing, you have a better chance of succeeding with it. So far so good out of FanTaSy. Solar is completely unaware of what is going on here. And he's going to see the Marines, but
Does he see them all? That's the real question. Because the Marines can be enough to give away a 2-1-1. We're seeing a Baneling Nest start for Solar. He cancels it and starts a Roach Board, interestingly enough.
I don't know about that.
Banelings versus a Terran like FanTaSy, who is probably just going to snipe your slow Banelings down. I guess Roaches are a little bit better at dealing with a 2-1-1.
Yeah, especially in the early game. It's fair. The later it goes on, though. Yeah, your Roaches aren't doing a whole lot the later we get on into the game.
I love this for FanTaSy. He's just showing 5 Marines. That's one of the things that you want to keep in the dark. The fact that you have so many Marines, because if you're doing a 2-1-1 and you're a Terran, you're making a lot of Marines. And then the Zerg will instantly know if they spot it. Solar now knows that it's a 2-1-1 from seeing the double medivacs. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point. When does he start firing up more lings, though? He just started up a big round of drones.
He's attacking the FanTaSy's front door with a bunch of lings, but there's enough Marines left.
It's not happening.
No, you're not getting through there at all. He's got 8 lings in production, but that does not seem like it's enough.
He's got queens, but yeah, the magic number of lings for stopping 16 stimmed Marines, it's usually your queens and 32 Zerglings. So FanTaSy's stimming on it. He might just die on top of these queens, and oh man, he is going for it. Solar's in trouble, guys.
The queen count plummeting. The lings doing nothing here.
This is disastrous for Solar.
Spore Crawler does. Yeah, Spore Crawler gets rid of the medevacs, but oh my gosh, the control here is so good. Roaches, sorry, these are Sim Marines, friend.
Yeah, Roaches, I mean, they're tanky, and they're able to volley down 1 or 2 of these Marines, but Solar is in a very rough spot. He's rallying out a few more Roaches. There's a chance he might be able to clean this up. He's trying to get his drones back to mining, and he does end up pushing FanTaSy away, but that hurt as the Zerg player.
That was so many dead queens left in games. That was 6 queens down.
Man,
there are 0 queens left for Solar. He has no queens. He's trying to replace them, but they're not here. His injects are going to be
5 Overlords. 6. That's a few too many Overlords. That is a panicked Solar right there.
That was an incredibly powerful opening salvo from FanTaSy.
Okay, Solar making a round of drones. Does Solar just do something like just start making Roaches and not stop at this point?
I mean, it'd be worth a shot.
FanTaSy didn't kill workers, so Solar's economy is fine, but he doesn't want to get bullied by this. FanTaSy's looking to come on in with these Marines and tanks again. He's got combat shield. He's got +1 on the way. Solar making these Roaches to defend for now, and we'll see if he's able to make that happen, because Terrans love these tank positions. How many times have we seen Terrans go up to positions like these in this tournament so far? Solar, he needs an Overlord or something up there to drop Corrosive Bile.
On this map especially, that tank position is so good. There we go. Corrosive Bile's actually Overlord, I thought he was giving vision, but I don't think he was.
Yeah, not for the tank. Solar needs a few more. And he's making Roaches and Ravagers to try and hold on. FanTaSy's bio is stimming forward. There's no +1 for FanTaSy just yet, so they're fighting on equal upgrades, but the buffer for the Ravagers is gone. The Marines are starting to focus them down. The tanks are still there being a nuisance. There is 3 siege tanks working away on Solar right now.
God, that tank has 7 kills. This tank has 5 kills. Corrosive Bile's not enough, and that's your good game. Good heavens, FanTaSy!
2 zeros.
Wow.